The Gaza Strip is facing a catastrophe. This small coastal enclave, home to over 2 million Palestinians, is embroiled in a humanitarian crisis of immense proportions. The ongoing conflict, marked by recurring cycles of violence, has crippled the region's infrastructure and left its population in a state of perpetual vulnerability. The situation is dire, demanding immediate global attention and concerted action. The people of Gaza are living through a nightmare. Every day they wake up to the sounds of explosions and the sight of destruction. Their once vibrant streets are now filled with rubble and despair. Basic necessities, the cornerstones of a dignified life, have become luxuries. Shelves that once held food and essential items now stand empty. People wait in long lines, hoping to secure even the most basic supplies for their families. Food, water, and medicine are in critically short supply. The scarcity of these essentials has turned daily survival into a daunting challenge. Families are forced to ration what little they have, unsure of when they will be able to replenish their supplies. The healthcare system, already strained by years of conflict and underdevelopment, is on the verge of collapse. Hospitals are overwhelmed, with doctors and nurses working tirelessly with limited resources. Medical facilities, damaged by the ongoing violence, struggle to provide even the most basic care. The relentless violence has forced families from their homes, seeking refuge in overcrowded shelters, their lives shattered by displacement and uncertainty. These shelters, meant to be temporary, have become long-term residences for many, with no end to their suffering in sight. Children, the most vulnerable members of society, bear the brunt of this crisis, their physical and emotional well-being severely compromised. They live in constant fear, their childhood stolen by the horrors of war. The trauma they endure will have lasting effects, shaping their futures in ways we can only begin to understand. The international community is acutely aware of the gravity of the situation in Gaza. The crisis has captured global attention, with news outlets around the world providing extensive coverage. Leaders from various countries are voicing their concerns, emphasizing the urgent need for a resolution. The gravity of the situation cannot be overstated as the conflict continues to escalate, affecting countless lives. Governments and international organizations are expressing deep concern, condemning the violence and calling for an immediate ceasefire. Protests have erupted in major cities worldwide, with people demanding an end to the bloodshed. Statements from the United Nations and other international bodies highlight the dire humanitarian situation, urging all parties to come to the negotiating table. The global outcry is a testament to the widespread desire for peace and stability in the region. The focus is shifting towards finding a political solution, one that addresses the root causes of the conflict and paves the way for a just and lasting peace. Diplomatic efforts are intensifying, with numerous meetings and peace talks being held to broker a deal. The international community is pushing for a comprehensive approach that includes economic support, political reforms, and security guarantees. The hope is that these efforts will lead to a sustainable resolution that benefits all parties involved. There are growing calls for Israel to ease its blockade on Gaza, which has severely restricted the flow of essential goods and services into the region, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian organizations are particularly vocal, highlighting the urgent need for medical supplies, food, and clean water. The blockade has not only impacted daily life, but has also hindered long-term development and recovery efforts. International pressure is mounting, with many urging for immediate action to alleviate the suffering of the people in Gaza. The United States, a key player in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, faces intense scrutiny over its role in the Gaza crisis. While the U.S. remains a significant provider of humanitarian aid to the region, its unwavering support for Israel, often perceived as a stumbling block to peace negotiations, has drawn criticism from various quarters. The U.S. is under pressure to leverage its influence to push for a peaceful resolution and ensure the protection of civilians caught in the crossfire. The United Nations, through its various agencies, is playing a critical role in alleviating the suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza. The UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, or UNRWA, is on the front lines, providing essential services like healthcare, education, and food assistance to millions of Palestinian refugees. However, the ongoing conflict poses significant challenges to the UN's humanitarian efforts. Access to conflict zones is often restricted, and the security of aid workers remains a constant concern. Delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza is a logistical nightmare. The ongoing conflict and the restrictions imposed on the movement of goods and people into and out of Gaza create formidable obstacles. Aid organizations face bureaucratic hurdles, security risks, and funding shortages, making their task even more daunting. Despite these challenges, humanitarian workers remain committed to their mission, working tirelessly to ensure that vital aid reaches those who need it most. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is a collective failure of the international community. The images of destroyed buildings and the faces of children affected by the conflict are a stark reminder of the devastating impact of political inaction. It is a stark reminder of the human cost of political inaction and the urgent need for global cooperation. The injured civilians in hospitals and the ongoing discussions at the United Nations highlight the dire need for a coordinated international response. Humanitarian aid is crucial, but it is only a temporary solution to a much deeper problem. Addressing this crisis requires a multi-pronged approach. It is not enough to provide immediate relief. We must also work towards long-term solutions. This involves international diplomats engaging in meaningful discussions and ensuring that aid reaches those who need it most, even in the most challenging conflict zones. First and foremost, an immediate ceasefire is essential to halt the violence and prevent further loss of life. The signing of ceasefire agreements and the temporary peace it brings to civilians in Gaza are critical first steps. However, these measures must be supported by sustained international peace talks. Simultaneously, efforts must be made to address the underlying political issues fueling the conflict. Political leaders must engage in honest and open debates, and peace negotiations should be prioritized. The scenes of protest in Gaza are a testament to the people's desire for lasting peace and justice. This requires a renewed commitment to dialogue and diplomacy, with all parties to the conflict engaging in good faith negotiations. Diplomatic meetings and international mediation efforts are essential to finding a sustainable resolution. Only through persistent and genuine dialogue can we hope to achieve a lasting peace that addresses the root causes of the conflict and paves the way for a brighter future for all involved. The plight of the Palestinian people in Gaza is a global responsibility. It is a test of our collective conscience and our commitment to upholding the fundamental rights and dignity of all human beings. The international community must move beyond rhetoric and take concrete actions to end the cycle of violence and suffering in Gaza. A just and lasting peace, one that guarantees the security and well-being of both Palestinians and Israelis, is the only way forward. The time for action is now.